Good afternoon, everyone. You're all very welcome to the monthly planning committee of Derry City and Strabane District Council, held here in the Guildhall Chamber on this Wednesday, the 6th of May. Can I extend a welcome to the elected members and, of course, those members of the public, applicants, agents, etc., who've joined us this afternoon in the public gallery. Again, you're very welcome also. So we will move to the first item on the agenda, which is the notice and summons of meeting, and moving directly then to members' attendance and apologies. And I'll pass that to the head of planning for that part of the process.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, members. You're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Planning Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Chamber, Guildhall, on Wednesday, the 6th of May, 2026, 2 p.m. Move on to the attendance. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Online, Suzanne.
Thank you. Alderman Neri McMorris.
Apologies, Suzanne.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Here, Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
Here.
Councillor Caroline Devine.
Oh.
Councillor Sean Fleming. Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Sure.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Sure.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Sure.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
Sure.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Sure.
Councillor Martin Riley.
Online.
Councillor Sinoy Barr.
Online.
Thank you. Councillor Sean Fleming. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay. Moving to the broadcast statement, item number 3. I'd like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have your microphones and cameras on while speaking at the meeting, and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. And a copy of the Council's privacy notice may be found on the Council website at www.derrystrabane.com. Members, moving to item number 4, are there any declarations of members' interests in relation to the business of today's meeting? Alderman Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair. It's in applications 1, 2 and 3 as a member of the Locks Agency Board.
Thank you, Alderman. And Councillor Jackson.
Member Chair, item 4, application number 4. Chair, I have met with the developer of this social housing scheme. I accompanied the infrastructure minister to the site. They specifically talk about the need to upgrade the Caw and Granshire roundabouts, and particularly the Caw roundabout. And we didn't discuss the application that's coming before us today, but we certainly discussed in detail the issues. So I just wouldn't mind a steer in relation to that. But I accompanied the minister along with the developers, and we did a very detailed meeting.
Okay, Councillor Jackson, I'll bring the city solicitor on shortly. However, I see Councillor Riley wants to make a declaration of interest. I suspect it's something similar to that. So go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's the same item, item 4 on today's agenda at item 7. Like Councillor Jackson has said, I've been in contact with the Minister over a number of years, not just the current Minister, in relation to the application in support of trying to find a solution to the existing difficulties that motorists experience at Caw roundabout. So, Chair, just put that on the record. And as what happened with previous applications, I stood out of the meeting to be put in the waiting area so the item could progress in my absence. I'm happy enough if that's what needs to be done again today. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Members, my instinct is to err on the side of caution.
Okay, so sound enough advice, I think. Obviously, Councillor Riley, you'll be placed in the lobby. Councillor Jackson, you know the score whenever it comes to that. Okay, moving to chairperson's business. The head of planning doesn't have any chairperson's business that they would like to come in under. However, as this is the final time and this year that I will be chairing the planning committee, I would first of all like to extend my thanks to the vice chair, who did indeed step on a number of occasions to chair the meeting whenever I had to make declarations of interest. So thank you to Councillor Fleming. Hopefully he's online now. If not, if that could be passed on to him on my behalf. And of course, members, to you yourselves for your diligence, your attention to detail. It's no easy task that members of the Planning Committee face, as I'm sure we all appreciate and are aware of. But thanks most of all for your cooperation and helping me conduct the meeting in a mannerly and reasonable fashion as well. So thanks to all of you. And then, of course, last but certainly by no means least, can I pass on my thanks to the officer team here around me, and indeed all of those who work away behind the scenes, seen and unseen, because without their efforts, then we would face an awful lot of difficult challenges pushing forward. I think on reflection, it's been a pretty interesting year for planning, not least because we finally, after some considerable years, were able to publish our local development plan. Now, we know it's not all come to a conclusion as such, but there was a significant amount of work that went into actually delivering that weighty tome, that heavy document that will now dictate how it is that we push forward with planning decisions in the years to come. There are so many things that I want to reflect on, but I'm also keen to move the meeting on. So again, just to say thank you to everybody mentioned. And finally, can I also thank all of the members of the public who've turned up to see the proceedings over the past year, and indeed to the agents and the applicants as well for being all part of the trying to sort out what is sometimes a very difficult process to go through for applicants. So that's all the thanks from me. Okay, members, so thank you very much. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair. And just on behalf of Sinn Féin, we want to thank yourself for the way you've conducted the committee over the past year. I think we all come on this chamber to take the decisions that are right for the people that we serve. And I suppose from your perspective, your role is to chair those proceedings, and like the fact that we haven't ran on a second day of committee too often during this year sort of speaks to the expediency of how you've been able to conduct the business of the committee. So on that regard, we thank you. And I suppose you've reflected that it's been an interesting year. It has. There's been considerable amount of applications that have went through this committee. We want to see more. We want to see. We want they have local elected representatives have a more of a say on applications that are presented as part of our city and district. And there has been challenges. There's no doubt around that. We've had a few bumps on the road over the year. Thankfully, they've been ironed out. But in reflection, it has been a very productive year, and we look forward to the incoming chair and working collectively as a team with all officers to try and shape the city and district for the better for future generations coming forward. So in that regard, thanks, and look forward to working with you in the side of the chamber.
Thank you, and thank you for the kind words, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Riley online.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, for bringing me back in. And like the previous speaker, just want to pay a tribute to you as the outgoing chair and also to the outgoing vice chair as well in relation to how the meeting has been conducted over this past 12 months. There has been a huge amount of work channeled through this committee, most notably the LDP and the associated changes and discussions with the general public around the LDP and how specifically I'm taking off the HMO legislation and how all of that fits with giving local people a voice into their planning service through the chamber. So it has been a really busy 12-month period. So well done to yourself and the vice chair and all the officer team for the work that has been done on all of those issues over the year. You can't have a chair without a committee, and likewise you can't have a committee without a chairperson, and you know the two go hand together. So it's really important that we do appreciate the time and the additional effort that you as a chair and as a vice chair have to give to the committee. So on behalf of the SDLP group, just to put that on record, Chair, thank you.
Again, thank you for the kind words, Councillor Riley, and online again, Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. And just again to reiterate the comments previously has been put forward by the previous two speakers there to thank you for your term of office as Chair. And you're familiar with that role, having held it in the past, and of course your Vice Chair as well. Conducted the meetings in a good manner and kept the business flowing. So again, a lot of work has been undertaken in this year with a lot of particularly urban planning. So no, very, very content in regards with the process and with your work and the way you've been able to work with officers and others. So thank you very much, Chair, on behalf of the DUP group.
Pardon me. Thank you, Alderman. And Alderman Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to wish you well and thank you for being Chair as well as the Vice Chair, Sean. You've done a powerful job. It's not been an easy year, and just to concur with all comments that were made around the LDP, and just to thank officers for the fantastic work they've done this year as well.
Okay, thank you. And I note that subtle doff of the cap there from yourself, Councillor Gallagher, so thank you for that as well. It certainly was a busy year. I think we'd all agree on that, but I appreciate all of the sentiments expressed there, as I'm sure the officer team do as well. And sure, we'll look forward to and wish the new chair and vice chair in the incoming year all the best as well. Moving along, we're going to do matters arising from the open minutes of the Planning Committee, which was held on Wednesday, April the 1st, and then I'll give you the running order as agreed prior to the meeting with the pre-meeting. So are there any matters arising from that? Alderman Montgomery?
It was just for an update on something on confidential, so it's something could we bring up later?
We'll come into that in confidential then. We do have room for the agenda anyway. Anybody else? No other matters arising? Nobody online? Okay, moving along. Right, running order. So we have a few speakers, which does dictates the running order somewhat. So it's numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 6, and 7 as a running order in your pack. Hopefully you all caught that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 6, and 7. And without further ado, we will move into matters for decision in relation to the planning applications that have been passed on to us for this month. And we will move to the very first application, application number 1, which is LA11 2024-0931. Outline for lands at Salawilly Road, and Rosie is going to take us through that. So Rosie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 1 is LA11 2024-0931. And this is a proposal for a site for a dwelling and garage on lands at Sallawilly Road, approximately 80 metres southeast of number 68 Lower Ballyarton Road. And the recommendation is to refuse. So this application is for a dwelling on a farm, and so it's been considered under policy HOU 18. In respect of this policy, officers are satisfied that the applicant's farm is currently active and established and has been for at least 6 years, and that no dwellings or development opportunities have been sold off from the farm within 10 years. And just to bring to your attention, you'll see it in the report anyway, that a dwelling was approved on the farm under a 2009 application, just in the location where the cursor is here. In principle, then, a dwelling on the farm is acceptable. However, the proposed dwelling is not sited to cluster with an established group of buildings on the farm. So the red line shows here where the application site is. This is where the main group of farm buildings are, and in between is a third-party dwelling that's not on the farm. So there's a separation distance of approximately 150 metres from the farm group, and this places the site in a roadside location with access off the Sallawilly Road. So the application for a dwelling on the application site, there was a previous refusal on this site, which, well, we were recommending approval, but this was withdrawn, and failure to cluster was a concern at that time also. This next slide just shows a view of the site. This is from within the field that the application site is in, and then this is the Sallawilly Road with the site in here to the right. So officers consider that there are development opportunities on the holding that would allow a dwelling to cluster with the main farm group, albeit that a fresh planning application would be required if we were to consider that. The applicant is advised that it's not possible to cluster with the existing farm group due to health and safety concerns, and because the land bounding the main farm group is required for farm expansion. So in respect of the health and safety concerns raised, the applicant argues that the access to the site, to any site that would cluster with the main farm, would have to come through the main farmyard. And on the image here, just on the right, this is, as I say, the main farm group, and the access to that is off the Lower Ballyarton Road. So access then to any alternative site would have to come through the farmyard. So officers have considered the argument raised and would agree that access through the working farmyard would not be feasible on health and safety grounds in this particular circumstance. So officers consider that the existing farm the farm access off the Ballyarton Road isn't the only way that that other sites could be accessed, and an access off Sallawilly Road may also be possible. Then the other argument in respect of expansion of the farm, well, the lands that are here to the south and west are argued to be the lands where the farm could expand. But under policy HOU 18, this requires verifiable evidence of plans to expand the business, and no verifiable plans have been submitted to officers. The policy HOU 18 also allows for consideration of a site that may, that's nearby the main farm group, not exactly grouping with the main farm group, if it would result in betterment in terms of a planning outcome in respect of landscape heritage access or amenity benefits. But in this case, officers consider that the application site fails to integrate, and that a dwelling would be prominent on this site. It would have an adverse impact on rural character, and the siting isn't sympathetic to the character of the Sperrin AONB. So as set out in the officer's report, also matters relating to access, sewage, natural heritage, historic environment, these all comply with the planning policy subject to conditions. So in summary, members, a dwelling on the farm holding is acceptable in principle. However, the proposal does not cluster with an existing group of buildings on the farm. No exceptional reasons have been presented to support a dwelling on the application site, and a dwelling on the application site would fail to integrate and impact on rural character. And for these reasons, refusal is recommended. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Rosie. Okay, members, we have two speakers to hear from. So I am going to welcome first Eamon Lynch, who I believe is online. Eamon is an objector to the proposal. So Eamon, can you hear us?
Yes, Chair, I can. Can you hear me?
We certainly can. Eamon, just to advise that normal protocol here is that you are afforded 5 minutes to address the committee, and then subsequent to that, I'll invite any questions that committee members may have for you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair. And
Eamon,
good
whenever
afternoon,
you're
members.
Eamon, whenever you're ready to go, we're ready to hear you.
Okay. Thanks, Chair, and good afternoon, members. I've read the case officer's report, and as an objector, I obviously agree with the reasons for refusal. My objections to this application are well summarised in section 9 of the case officer's report, and are based wholly on the planning policies of your recently adopted local plan. I don't propose to go over these again, and I only highlight very briefly a small number of points already in the case officer's report for the committee's consideration. Firstly, the case officer's report indicates that the applicant was asked for information about other suitable sites, but that no additional information has been submitted in relation to this. The failure by the applicant to provide information to demonstrate whether or not there are suitable sites beside the farm group is contrary to your policy HOU 18, and the application is refusable on this basis alone. The work by your planning officers shows that there are two readily available areas or sites beside the farm where a dwelling would be acceptable in principle. Secondly, I think mention has been made of the health and safety report, but that is limited in scope because it deals with farm risks that are common to many of the livestock farms in the north. But that report does not identify any mitigation measures that could be used to minimise any perceived risks on this farm. And most significantly, it provides no assessment as to why the chosen application site has to be sited 150 metres from the farm group. It is therefore of fairly limited value in assessing risk on this farm. Thirdly, even if the site could meet the exceptional cluster policy test, it would still have to integrate, and I have raised this, the lack of integration as part of my objection. And I obviously would concur with the case officer assessment on this issue. Fourthly, the case officer report identifies a need for more detailed design and access statement to support the application. I agree with the case officer that such information would need to be available through the committee, but only if they were minded to approve this application. It is not required in any event, as the site is already considered to fail the integration test. Fifthly, I would just add that I'm not opposed to a dwelling on this farm. Indeed, as committee members will see, there are a number of options put forward by your officers that the applicant could have explored to meet their needs. And for the record, I have absolutely no objection to those in principle. And finally, in reading the case officer report, I have found no other material planning considerations that would outweigh each and all of the 6 reasons for refusal. These are, in my view, well-founded planning reasons. And on that basis, I would ask the committee members on the committee to support the officer's recommendation for refusal. That's very brief, and that's all I have to say, but I'm quite happy to take any questions that members might have for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Eamon. Thanks for your contribution for now. Members, does anyone have any questions for Eamon? At this point, no one in the room, Eamon, and I don't see any questions coming to us online either. Okay, Eamon, sit tight there. Okay, members, moving along. The next speaker, who I believe is here in person, I see him in the gallery, so either that or he's got a twin, is Andy Tate. Andy obviously is the agent speaking on behalf of the applicant. Andy, if you want to pull that mic round as well. Yeah, okay. So Andy, I think you know the drill by now. Obviously, you've got the same 5 minutes to address the committee. So whenever you're ready, go for it.
Chair, members, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. This is a straightforward application for a single farm dwelling on an active, long-established holding. The farm meets the core policy test under HOU 18, and the principle of development is accepted. The issue before members today is a narrow one, whether there is a safe and realistic way of achieving clustering, or whether there exceptional criteria allowing an alternative siting have properly been met. It is important at the outset to recognise that the officer's report accepts compliance with criteria 1 and 2, therefore in principle a dwelling on this farm is acceptable under policy. I'd also like to point out to members that I received correspondence from a planning department dated May 2025, where the case officer confirmed that the proposal has been discussed internally and was considered acceptable in principle, subject to further detailed assessment. However, this changed once the objection was received. At that stage, there was no specific concerns raised regarding clustering or alternative site options. That is important context because it demonstrates that the proposal was not being viewed as unacceptable in principle but remained under normal policy assessment. The remaining issue is therefore criteria-free clustering with existing farm buildings. We submitted a full alternative site assessment in June 2025 covering all land parcels around the farmyard, including those now referenced in the officer's report, so it is not correct to suggest that alternative sites were not properly addressed. They were. In addition, a detailed health and safety report was submitted in November 2025, prepared by a qualified health and safety consultant. That report clearly sets out operational risks associated with siting closer to the yard. These are not abstract concerns, they reflect the day-to-day operation of the farm. It is also important to emphasise that I formally requested a site visit to the farmyard so that the case officer could understand the working farm in its operational context. That request was not taken up and no visit has taken place. As a result, alternative siting options are being assessed without officers having physically seen the layout, access constraints, or safety considerations on the ground. It is also important to emphasise that the access through the farmyard has already been accepted by the planning officer as not being practical. That is a significant material point because it effectively confirms that clustering within the yard creates operational conflict. Furthermore, the only realistic direction for expansion of the existing farmyard is to the rear of the farm buildings, which is exactly where the alternative sites as identified in the report are located. So these areas are not unused or neutral land parcels, they are integral to the long-term functioning and expansion of the farm business. Policy allows for flexibility where clustering is not achievable for genuine health and safety reasons, provided this is supported by evidence. Paragraph 16.127 of the justification text confirms that such cases may be evidence-based. That requirement has been met through a professionally prepared health and safety report, which has not been contradicted by any equivalent assessment from the Council. To place this within the wider policy framework, members are reminded that the LDP seeks to balance countryside protection with support for rural enterprise. In relation to objections, I fully respect the right to any party to raise concerns, and those representations have been taken into account as part of this assessment. It is a matter of record that the objector has been granted planning permission for a dwelling on land adjacent to the application site. The objector's application was approved on the 15th of May, and they have formally objected to this application on the 20th of May. Whilst this does not affect the validity of their objection, it is relevant in context for members when considering the wider planning history in the area and ensuring that policies are applied consistently to similar rural housing proposals. Finally, members are asked to consider the human reality behind what this policy is designed to support. This is not an abstract planning exercise. It's a working farm that depends on continuity between generations. The LDP is clear in its intention to support sustainable rural communities, to allow active farms to remain viable and to enable young generations to remain within the farm holding where this can be achieved without harm. This is exactly what this proposal delivers. It provides a single dwelling for a family member who will continue to live on, support and contribute to the long-term future of the farm. If refused, the consequence is not simply a loss of a dwelling. It is a forced separation of a family from the working farm that has sustained them and will continue to sustain the future generations. This is a case supported by evidence, grounded in operational reality and consistent with the intent of rural planning policy, not an exception to it. For those reasons, members are especially asked to support this application, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, members, so there's an offer on the floor for you. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to put to Andy? Alderman Kerrigan?
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Just a couple of wee points that Andy could clarify for me. That's again, just so that I get it in my own head there. I know there's four applications noted in the planning pack. I'm assuming there that there's only one dwelling out of that, and that is the dwelling that we see that's adjacent to the farm buildings. That's one point, so we can just clarify that. I know there's two applications from what I see were in regards to this site, and then they were either withdrawn or refused. So I'm just thinking that, although there's four applications there's only one dwelling out of that, or I might have just picked that up incorrectly in reading of it. I'm asking the question, and you've detailed there that there is a detailed health and safety report which has been brought in, and you're mindful that would be under the exceptions under 3A of HOU 18, that response then would be applicable to the exception to the HOU 18 dwellings on the farm, that it would be allowable then in that regard because of the difficulties of the farm. And I take on board entirely in regards to your comments there and the closeness to buildings and farm buildings. And I do recall being out on site visits with this committee in regards to slurry storage and in regards to the difficulties of the proximity of dwellings to agricultural shades and where there was going to be slurry storage and where there was going to be effluent storage. So I take that on board. I'm just wondering, again, you've seen, if you could clarify, Andy, you've seen the 6 refusal reasons, and I would know that road to a certain extent. I wouldn't know it entirely well, but I would know to a certain extent. My opinion is that road comes down, the Sallowilly road comes down into that lower Ballyarton road, and there's quite a bit of vegetation. So I'm just wondering in regards to the reasons here of the integration and how it will dwell, how it would fit in, and just and your view on that. Plus the fact this is an outline application. We don't know, is this going to be a bungalow? What type of house are you planning or are you seeking to get approval for here? Because that would maybe help to see if there was mindful to support an application. We don't know what you're looking to build in that regard, because I know there's bungalows and there's larger houses in the area. So it's just a few comments, Andy, on those points. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. Andy, if you want to address some of those points.
Yep, I'll try my best. As regards to the history, I'm not just before my time dealing with my client. All I know is this application is for my client's daughter and her husband, and they reside on the farm. The other point as regards the health and safety, you access the farm and the original client's farmhouse from the Ballyarton Road. You drive up the lane and you have to go between two open farm sheds, or that have two slurry tanks. And that's the only way you can get through the farmyard. And that's why I was asking that the case officer would go and look at it himself, because if he had a visit the farmyard, he would have seen it himself, that you just can't get through it. So we employed an independent qualified health and safety expert who went up on his own and assessed the site twice and assessed the farmyard, and he came up with a report. As regards the integration, the site's running onto the junction of the Ballyarton Road. Like, for me, it's well integrated. It's bound to be, or the two houses, at the junction, all the landscape will be retained. I don't see how it's not integrated. And as regards the conditions, my client will be happy to accept any condition, whether it's a bungalow or whatever the planners put forward. I think that's all your questions.
Alderman Kerrigan, anything further?
No, that's grand. Sorry, what I forgot on that was just very briefly. Did you state, Andy, that there had been, maybe I picked this up wrong, did you state that there was farm expansion plans? Or was the discussion in regards to farm expansion? Because I thought either yourself or either Rosie mentioned there had been discussion in regards to that.
Yes, if you see I'm not too sure if you see the location map, but you'll see the farm buildings. And then at the front of the farm buildings, there's the objectors dwelling, my client's dwelling, and my client's brother's dwelling. So the only way the farm can expand is to the rear, and that's where the council is proposing the alternative sites. So it's not practical. So it's not, and that's the only reason why we picked this site at the junction of Salway Road.
Thank you.
You, Alderman. Councillor Devine?
I think Andy's answered some of the questions I had just in relation to expansion and integration, and I suppose the enclosure. Maybe if you want to expand a wee bit on that in terms of enclosure of that proposed site. And the other thing just that had come up in the report was in relation to access, I suppose a different access into a site that would be closer to the farm buildings, and why that might not be considered as an alternative as well, please.
I'm not too sure. I think there were photographs on the case officer's report. I think there's a couple taken from the road, if that could be shown on there. That's actually, or that's pictures from the road. You can clearly see the existing landscape, which will be retained. So it is well integrated. There'll be only one really new boundary going up. So it's like every site has to create a new boundary, and as I said, we'll be creating a landscaping plan at the next stage if we were successful here today. As regards the case officer's report, they were saying about a new laneway, but that laneway would be going to the alternative sites, which would be to the rear of the farm buildings, where if a farm had to expand, it can only go that way, so it wouldn't work. And plus, the laneway that the council case officer was proposing to the alternative sites would be approximately, you're chatting 140 metres of a lane across two fields. It's not practical to work on farm. You're in two fields to get a laneway to a site, which personally I think would stand out more than a house at the edge of the road. So hope that helps.
Okay, councillor. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Tate? Okay, sit tight, Andy, where you are for now. Okay, members, anybody got any questions for Rosie or anyone on the officer team in relation to this application? Anybody online? Councillor Kerrigan, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Chair, and thank you, Rosie, for the report and the manner in which you brought it forward. Just a couple of wee points there, Rosie. In regards to maybe I have missed it, or maybe I've read it and it's not just been detailed as that. We didn't get sight of this health and safety report that was provided by the applicant. He says, I thought I picked him up that it was dated in November 25. And I say I don't. Maybe it's been summarised and I've just read it as part of the report and it's not the actual detail in it, because he's stating that there's been a third party to get a report. Another wee question is, the agent has stated that there was June 25 that there were parcels of land sort of discussed, or was that discussed with yourselves in regards to alternative sites? So I'm just those two wee points there, and I just would have a wee query there in regards to the integration. You know, the gradient rises in that field that we're looking at there, just as you enter onto the Salawilly Road from the lower Ballyarton Road, sorry, and just wondered, because there seems to be quite a rise in gradient on there. I'm just trying to see the visual impact there as to where you'll see a potential house from, because I don't believe with the amount of trees at the junction, I don't believe you'll be able to see any dwelling from the Ballyarton Road. So I'm just wondering how it'll stand out, because there's a couple of points there in the refusal reasons which are detailing the how it that will be unduly prominent, but from what location? Because I don't see that it will be, because you're travelling down, as I'm just going to call it down rather than north, south, east or west, and the Sallywally Road, and I think you'll be looking down upon it as opposed to, and there's substantial hedging as you would travel along that road. So I'm just wondering that we've two refusal reasons there in regards to that, but I think, yes, I fully admit there will have to be some planting or some integration, but I think that site does integrate to a certain extent. So if you can just touch on those couple of points, it would be appreciated. Thank you very much, Rosie.
Thank you, Councillor Kerrigan. So on the health and safety report, yes, we did get a detailed health and safety report, but officers accept the detail that's in that report in respect of having to access alternative sites through the farmyard. We accept that wouldn't be practical in this case. It is a working farmyard, so we've given weight to that consideration. In terms of the alternative sites, the other requirement on that is, are there verifiable plans to expand the farm business? And we're not provided with any verifiable plans. There's no planning approval granted. There's no CLUD in place, or, certificate of lawful development in place for any proposed expansion. So we can't put weight on just being advised that that's where the farm would expand. There is quite a bit of land to the rear of those buildings, so we would consider that a site would be available, even if there were other plans to expand. In terms of integration, so the site is located on the Salawilly Road, and what's required, there's quite a bit of hedge removal, 55 metres of hedge removal required to achieve the visibility splays. So once you've removed those visibility splays, you're looking straight into the site with no backdrop. The rise in the field that the application site is in wouldn't be sufficient to provide a backdrop for the site. So we don't feel then that for those reasons that it would integrate, and the main views of it would be off the Salawilly Road itself. Does that answer your questions?
It does, Rosie, thank you. But I'm just querying, my reading of HOU 18 is that if either A, B or C of part 3 are met, in theory that meets it, or maybe am I reading that wrong?
No, you are right, because it says after A, B or C, it says or, so it doesn't have to be all three, but in this case, all three consider A, B and C, those criteria are considered, and we don't feel that they're all met. I mean, there's we accept the health and safety argument, but there's no verifiable plans to expand the farm business, so that doesn't rule out a site to rear of the existing farm buildings. So that I suppose that's the main criteria there, because the other ones in terms of C are okay. They can be met by condition. Except for the integration argument, which we've put under CY1.
Alderman, you okay with that?
Yeah, I see Rosie's point. I see it. I might not agree with it, but I see it.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. Thank you, Rosie. Anybody got any other questions for Rosie? And the officers? Okay, Rosie, thank you. Okay, members, well, as you can see, the recommendation from the planning department is for refusal for this application, so I'm going to pass it over to yourselves for any further considerations or proposals that you might have, one way or the other. So over to yourselves. A wall of silence was not what I was hoping for, members. Again, I'll ask one more time. Any further proposals, either to propose a refusal or an alternative if you've got one? Okay, apologies, Councillor Kerrigan. You have now indicated that you do have a proposal, so I'm content to hear it.
I was going to query. Obviously there are 6 refusal reasons here, Chair, and I'm minded that you have to address all 6 of them. I'm just mindful that excuse me, the first item then is the refusal reason under the dwellings in the HOU 18 and regards to the cluster. With existing buildings on a farm, and I'm minded, although we don't have sight of it, so I don't know whether there's any benefit, because I'm minded that the officer stated that we've received the health and safety report and we've accepted the health and safety report, but we're not accepting it that it is enough to confirm section 3A of HOU 18. So I would remind that if that health and safety report is accepted, surely then that meets that criteria in HOU 18.3A if the health and safety report's been accepted, and we don't require, because point 1 and point 2 have already been confirmed by the officers, point 3A is met as far as I'm aware, and if it's not been met and if that report's not met, I'm minded we need to get sight of it to see the report. So I'm a wee bit of a contra here, Chair. If the health and safety report's been accepted, then I'm minded that the first refusal reason falls, and I feel that carries a second refusal reason. But if it's not met, I think we need time to see this report and see why does that health and safety report not meet 3A criteria. So that's it's a wee query in my own mind here, Chair, because that's my point of whether I can make a proposal or whether it would be a proposal for a deferment to get that information.
Can you repeat what the last thing you said there, please? Alderman, so I can understand what it is exactly you're looking for.
Chair, I'm just getting clarification, because we've got a health and safety report that's been provided by a third party there on the applicant's behalf, and it's deemed that it has been accepted as a health and safety report, and it's, but yet, and we've also had a discussion in regards to verifiable plans for farm expansion. We don't need verifiable plans for farm expansion if the health and safety report has been accepted, or am I reading the report, the LDP incorrectly? I'm minded that if 3A is met, that removes the first two refusal reasons. But so we don't, it doesn't matter if they're going to build another building on the farm or not, if 3A is met. And there's that, and I'm just sort of querying, is 3A met? Because I'm minded that it has been met by the report that's been given. And if it's not, I think we need to see the report that's been given, because we don't have that in our pack.
Okay, Alderman, so you've just asked a question again, and I think I'm going to pass that back to officers to attempt to answer it for you, and then you can, I suppose, take that response and we'll see what you do with it. Okay.
Okay, Councillor or Alderman Kerrigan. In terms of point HOU 18.3, right, the new buildings should be sited to cluster with an established group of buildings on the farm in the first instance, right? Exceptionally, consideration may be given to an alternative site elsewhere on the farm, provided there are no other sites available that would cluster, okay? So first of all, we are saying this site doesn't cluster, okay? And number 3 says it should cluster. In terms of the demonstrable health and safety reasons, the health and safety report has been submitted. It's all available on the planning portal, like all the other information that comes in with planning applications. It's not a standalone, issue that we're only looking at now. This has been considered. It's summarised in the report. The health and safety report focuses on the issue of the farm access and the fact that it is unsafe. Okay, and that they don't want to use the farm access to access, they don't want to come through the farm. Officers accept that, right? But officers are also saying that the alternative site that we are saying would cluster better can also be accessed separately via a safe access that doesn't come through the farm, okay? So in terms of number 3B, there are no verifiable plans. This is our policy now that now asks for verifiable plans. Verifiable plans are plans that either a plan application or a CLUD, as Rosie has said, we do not have those, okay? And then 3C, or it can be shown that an alternative site nearby would result in demonstrable landscape, natural historic environment access and amenity benefits. As Rosie and the team have summarised in the report, this site really has one boundary. When you take away the roadside hedge, it's a suburban road frontage site, okay? There's lots of land out the back that we are saying that, and what the objector has also noted today, that would provide more appropriate siting and location and clustering, which is what we are requiring under this policy. So I hope that has maybe helped summarise and iron out a few queries. Thanks.
Okay.
So, thank you, Chair, and thank Suzanne for coming in with that. I'm just querying the point in regards to the removal of the roadside boundary. Even with your new site that has been suggested, surely that roadside boundary is still removed to get site access, because it's still for access. So no matter what site it's going on, that roadside hedge is going to have to be removed to get access, because you're still accessing from the same point. Or I could be wrong, but we could go around in circles here, Chair. I've content enough. I'm still minded. The hedge goes either way, either with this site or an alternative site. This hedge goes because the access is from Salawally Road. So it's the sight lines are needed either way. But I take it on board. I'll let it sit at the minute, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. So, Councillor Devine.
Sorry, again, I'm not making a proposal, but I'm looking at the on the alternative sites, and really there isn't any more enclosure around those either. Those are very open sites that are around the farm buildings there. So I suppose that's something that's in the back of my head as well, that the sites where the options that are available for alternative sites, there isn't any better enclosure in my view on those.
Okay, do you feel that there's a question that you wish to answer in relation to that? I'm happy to let you do so, Suzanne. Yeah.
Yep. Just to clarify, through you, Chair, the alternative sites have been visited by the officer team and the senior officer team. So, we're not putting this information in the report without having visited and having assessed the alternative sites, so that we could confidently give a recommendation to the applicant in order to find a solution. So we would be of the view as officers, look, the alternative sites that we've highlighted would meet the policy. they're cluster and they're further set back from the road. So we have visited them and we would consider that they meet the policy in terms of clustering.
Okay, members, any further questions for the officer team? Right, okay, back to where we were. Again, to repeat, recommendation here is for refusal. And as ably pointed out by Alderman Kerrigan, if there is a counter proposal to that refusal, then there are 6 refusal reasons that would need to be addressed. So I will take a proposal at this point. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I propose we go with the officer's recommendations.
Okay, members, there is a proposal from Councillor Gallagher to accept the officer recommendation to refuse. Is there a seconder for that proposition? Councillor Gallagher, thank you for your proposal, albeit, as you can see, it would appear that there is no one willing to second your proposal at this point. Anyway, members, in the absence of a proposer and a supporter for the officer recommendation, and that leads me to the conclusion that there may well be a counter proposal to the opposite effect, but I have to hear it, and it would need to be seconded again similarly, and as already pointed out, if in the event there is a counter proposal, then there are 6 reasons for refusal.
Chair.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Yeah, we'll work on something here. I am minded, Chair, that the first 2 refusal reasons are effectively. Sorry, I have to switch back on one screen. I'm trying to work on 3 different screens here, Chair. It would have been handier being there today, but it is what it is. In regards to the first refusal reason and not clustering then HOU 18, I am minded that I'm putting more weight on regards to the health and safety report that has been provided by the third party on behalf of the applicant and the agent, and in regards to their so I feel that 3A has been met. So I do come to a different position. HOU 18, 1 and 2 have been met, and 3A has been met in my view. So that removes the first refusal reason, and it removes, in my view, the second refusal reason, because I feel that the second refusal reason is effectively in regards to 3C, but 3C is not applicable if you meet 3A. In regards to the third, the fourth, and the fifth refusal reason, I minded they are all in relation to the long established boundaries, and in regards to the unduly prominent, and in regards to the, sorry if I get the correct wording here, citing of the proposal is not sympathetic to the special character of the Spurn AONB. That's 3, 4 and 5. Now I'm minded that this is an outline planning application, and whatever restrictions or requirements or conditions the planning officers would be minded of implementing in relation to this, I do feel can place this dwelling that it would not be unduly prominent in the area. I still feel no matter what dwelling is built here, it will not be seen from the lower Ballyarton Road. There's enough vegetation and there's enough hedgerows and landscape in there. And again, as stated in my previous contribution, the hedging on the Salawally Road will have to be removed for sight lines, no matter where the site is. Should it be this site or should it be a site on the in behind the farm dwellings or behind the farm buildings. So I feel that the conditions could meet. Now I stand to be corrected if the plan officers feel not, but I feel appropriate conditions can be put in place by officers in relation to the size and ridge height in regards to the dwelling, which can counteract refusal reason 3, 4 and 5. And I feel the overriding reason in regards to point 6, I feel that this development essential rural location, it's a dwelling for the next generation of the farm. So I do feel that it's stated then that this is for a daughter of the current farmer in question, and may well be the successor to the current farmer. So I feel that there is a reason for the development being located here and not located in a settlement. So I feel that may be a reason in regards to point 6. So, Chair, it is a response to the 6 points. Whether it is acceptable or not, I am minded to propose it in that manner, Chair, but await officers and the legal response to those points. Thank you, Chair.
And your proposal is therefore to
overturn the officer's recommendation, Chair. With the greatest respect to the officers, I do take on board their professional and their viewpoint, but I'm just coming to a slightly different viewpoint. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for outlining your position in relation to those refusal reasons. Members, you all heard that, and it is entirely up to yourselves, ourselves even, as to whether we agree with that. If there is anybody in agreement with that, then I'll welcome a seconder for the proposal to override the officer recommendation at this point. Alderman Montgomery?
I'm happy with everything Keith has said, and I'm more than happy to second his proposal.
Okay, members, well, we have finally got there. Proposal from Alderman Kerrigan, seconded by Alderman Montgomery, to overturn the recommendation to refuse what is, as you are all aware, an outline planning application. So I'm going to put that to the vote now. So Suzanne, whenever you're ready.
Sure. Okay, members, so this is proposal to not accept the officer recommendation and overturn the recommendation to an approval. LA 11 2024 09310. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Or Suzanne.
Alderman Mary Morris not here. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Sean Fleming is not here. Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Yeah.
Councillor Christopher Jackson. Not here. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Abstaining.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
Abstain.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Neil.
Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
And Councillor Sinai Barr.
For.
Okay, members, so that is 7 for, 1 against and 3 abstentions. So that proposal from Alderman Kerrigan is carried. And we'll take it forward from there. Members, okay. Moving on to the next one on the list. Andy, just to thank you, we're missing me not to do so, for your attendance here today, and we wish you all the best with it. Okay, next one is item number 2 in the pack as well, which is LA 11 2024 0469F, which is a recommendation for approval for the proposed demolition of 4 numbered dwellings and the construction of 27 numbered apartments at 140, 110 Main Street in Strabane. And so there is one speaker, but first I'm going to invite James to present the officer report. James, whenever you're ready.
Afternoon, members. Thank you, Chair. Item 2, LE 11 2024-0469F is the proposed demolition of 4 dwellings, construction of 27 apartments, associated ancillary works at lands at 104 to 110 Main Street, Strabane, and our recommendation today is an approval. That's a site location map, and the site is adjacent to the river and the car park, just a short while down Main Street from the town centre. The site itself is currently 4 vacant dwellings. You can see there the gable of the 3-storey, and then the subsequent 3 dwellings just as you head up Main Street there. And that's a photograph from the site as you head back down towards Main Street, towards Christie's Bar and the car park beside there. The application is to redevelop the whole of the site to provide 27 apartments. That would be the block plan, so it would follow the same building line on Main Street as per the existing houses, and then to the rear it replaces outbuildings with apartments that face and access directly onto the river walkway, and then just to the side of the car park and up close to Main Street is the entrance where the upper floor apartments would be accessed, as 5 of the ground floor apartments will have direct access either onto Main Street or to the river walkway. In terms of design, this is a 3D image just of the proposed building. It's actually the building that you can see there, but you can see a cream building just beyond the brown brick. That's actually part of it as well. And the idea is to try and provide a frontage onto Main Street that's fairly vernacular in its architecture and therefore sits within character whilst being the apartment block in itself. This design would look like this if approved, and it shows a gradual stepping up from the existing housing, which is just to the right half there, and the building begins with the light grey, which would be the cream block in the previous image. That will have a direct access, but would have the appearance of a single house, whereas the upper floors would form the remainder of the apartments for the 27 units. The elevation then on the car park is slightly different, as we're sitting away from the Main Street. We'll have the access, which you can see on the right-hand side there with the cream block. To the rear of the development, there will be, I think it's 9 facing apartments that face out onto the river. 3 of those on the ground floor will be accessed directly from the river walkway, and you can see a small bit of defensible space where there's an overhang developed above. The units above them will have a small balcony or Juliet balcony area, so you can take into account the views then onto the Mourne River beside there. In summary, the proposal for redevelopment of the site at Main Street to provide 27 apartments, all material considerations taken into account, including the LDP 2032 and the policies, which are all contained in the report that's been sent to you already, and the consultation responses received. The application received no representations during the course of its processing. In addition, there will also be a Section 76 agreement, which will deal with Housing 5, where 20% of the apartment units will be affordable housing, and they will be pepper potted throughout the 3 floors of the development. So therefore, it's recommended that the Council's Planning Committee approve planning permission subject to conditions outlined in the committee report and the subsequent 76 agreement.
Thank you, James. We have one speaker, and that is Les Ross. Les is making his way here from the public gallery. Les, you're very welcome. Les is the agent on behalf of the applicant. Les, I'm sure you know the drill, however, I'll point it out one more time, and that is that you've got 5 minutes to address the committee, and then we'll take any questions that they might have for you at that point. So whenever you're ready, go for it.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, members. And maybe it would be remiss of me not just to comment on the fact that it's your last or your final day in the chair. So on behalf of agents and the public, just pass on thanks for how you've conducted yourself over the last year. So I'll keep my comments on the application brief, Chair. On behalf of the applicant, I'd like to welcome the recommendation to approve, and I thank the planning officers for the work that has gone into bringing the application forward today. You've just heard a very comprehensive presentation from James, which in my view clearly sets out the planning merits of the proposal. Chair and committee, this is an important site in the town centre, in Strabane town centre. It's a very prominent site, but unfortunately at present it's in a derelict and an unattractive state. And it certainly detracts from this part of Main Street and the riverside environment. And as the officer's report correctly notes, the redevelopment of the site will have a positive and transformative impact on the streetscape and the wider character of the town centre. The site also occupies a genuinely attractive riverside setting. The proposal seeks to take advantage of that location by delivering modern town centre living within easy walking distance of the services, facilities and the public transport in the town centre. Throughout the process, the applicant has been working with a social housing provider to make sure that the scheme delivers the type of units that are most needed in the town, and that work will continue after the application process is finished. And members, you are aware, I'm sure, that delivering schemes like this are not straightforward. Securing planning permission is only the beginning of the process. And there are still significant challenges here on this site in terms of financial viability and the construction issues. And those are particularly tricky in a brownfield site in the town centre location. So for that reason, today's recommendation is especially important. It provides the opportunity to replace a long-standing derelict site with a high-quality residential development that can help support confidence and regeneration within Strabane town centre. So members, I ask you to agree with the recommendation and approve the application. And Chair, I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So members, there's an offer on the floor from the agent on behalf of the applicant. Has anybody got any questions for Les? Councillor Gallagher, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just listening to the speaker and knowing the area well. Yeah, this area has been derelict for quite a long time. And Chair, there's no saying no beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And in looking at this, I would have to disagree with the speaker in the sense of it's in the middle of town. It looks like a factory. You know, like, can we not do something that would, particularly at the front street? You know, the back street would be the back end of this. There's lock open balconies, whatever, like. But the front side, it just looks like a factory. It's in the middle of the town. It's not very conducive to the surrounding. Now, and on the report, you know, we've got the printers at our end. There's a wee lock of features on it. You know, and I'm just thinking the question being is, can you not do something with it?
Thanks, Councillor Gallagher. I suppose beauty isn't the eye of the beholder. I mean, it's a well-worn phrase and perhaps sometimes even a cliche, but it is what it is. Les, obviously observations that I would imagine you're going to disagree with, but go ahead anyway.
Well, through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for the comments. I suppose I'm not an architect, and I wasn't the architect behind the project. I'll maybe give you a bit of context. There was a previous approval on this site, and maybe James will help me with this, but it's maybe back around 2005 or something. So the legacy of that approval, the design of the scheme that you see in front of you is very much aligned with that previous scheme. And the architect and James did have criticisms of the design during the application process, and he and the architect worked through that to come up with basically a way of breaking up the frontage and trying to make the building as appealing as possible. So I suppose my confidence is in the architect and his ability to create a building that maybe in the flesh, when you see it, councillor, hopefully it'll be approved today, it'll look better than you maybe imagine. And I suppose maybe leave it as like that, please.
You're right about it.
Well, it definitely won't look no worse than what's existing, and I'll give it that. So anything is an improvement, but I'm just thinking at this stage, it would be nice to see like a wee feature on it, you know. But
Okay, so you're going to beg to differ on that, but I suppose we've discussed that to that point anyway. Councillor Gallagher, thank you for the answer. Les, Councillor Logue, I think you've got a question.
Well, it's not a question, it's just a comment, and it's just a follow on. And I suppose everybody's different in what they see and how they see it. However, I just want to make a comment. For me, anyway, this certainly doesn't look like a factory. A factory to me doesn't have windows that you could look out of. And there's a number of doors. A factory, any factory I would have worked on anyway, and any that I pass and see, they're like corrugated iron or brickwork. There might be windows at the top or whatever to let some sort of natural light in, but certainly not windows all around like that. I'm not familiar with them being in any factories that I have seen, so it's just an opinion. Thank you. And I do think that big, the address at the front of the side of the building there has a bit of a feature. Thank you.
Hey, Councillor Logue, thanks for that contribution. Yeah, I suppose the aesthetics are usually some, well, you know, we're here, we're not all going to agree sometimes, you know, I mean, that's just the way of it. Any actual questions for Les at this point? Albeit the observations are welcome, as you know. Yes, sit tight where you are. I don't have any further questions. Does anybody have any questions for James or indeed his colleagues? Thank you for the report, James. No questions either. All right, members, there is a recommendation to approve. Whether you think it's ugly or not, the recommendation is to approve. I'll take a proposer in a second. To propose Councillor Logue, seconded by Councillor Gallagher.
I just want to add to that this is much needed housing within our council.
Apologies, I should have afforded you that opportunity.
But within our council district, and it will go away, will go some way to address that need. And it would also bring the stair-like site and a use again. And I think that this in turn will also enhance the footfall in Strabane, the main street and the main thoroughfare of the town, which we all know that main streets across our districts there is a downturn in footfall, so we have to find ways of trying to address that issue too as well. So I think this approval will address a number of issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. My apologies to you. Should have afforded you that opportunity. Councillor Gallagher, likewise, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy to second it. The housing stress in Strabane is in great need. So I agree with the previous speaker. And again, like as I said earlier, this is like area has been derelict for a long time. It's at the lower end of Main Street, and I think that this will obviously improve the area and make it. It'll actually draw the lower of the town into the main street, you know, where it should be. So I think I might disagree with the look of it, but I think that it's much needed, and I'm glad to see it be happening.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, Chair, for bringing me in. Just also voice my own pleasure that this is hopefully going to be, that has been proposed and seconded and hopefully will be passed. If I can refer to my previous life in the fire service, this was a site of many deliberate fires around this area. So it'll, deliberate fires always take firefighters and fire engines away from where they're actually really needed. So from that point of view, it's very welcome that this site will be demolished now and redone as what we see here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Anybody else wish to make comment before we go on to vote on this particular item? Just to say briefly, I concur with all of the speakers. This is a significant improvement, I think, and of course, you're all right. It affords an opportunity for people to live in the town centre and bring some life back into it that perhaps up till recently was missing. So it's a good thing in my view. But that's up to yourselves and me. So we will put it to the vote.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is the vote for the recommendation to approve LA 11 2024-0469F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney. Councillor Chris Jackson's not here. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
Councillor Lillian Sinai Barr.
For.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, members. That's unanimous. And so therefore the approval is accepted. Thank you to James and the rest of the team. Okay, Les, you may sit tight where you are because as the information I have in front of me as you'll be speaking of. Sorry, Les, I can't hear you. Can you stick a mic on?
I've left my notes for the next case.
Oh, well, you may go and get them. Okay. You shouldn't forget your homework, Les. Now, come on. We'll give you a minute. Well, sure, Les, come back at your leisure. We've got to do the report anyway. Okay, so the next one is LA 11 2025-0024 outline. A recommendation for approval again at number 10 Gregmore Drive, Claudy. Rory, you're going to present that, so whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So the next item is application LA 11 2025-00240. And this is an outline plan application for a proposed residential development at lands to the south of Craigmore Drive in Claudy. And the recommendation is for an approval. So the application boundary of the site is shown here outlined in red along with an aerial photograph of the site. The application site is accessed from Craigmore Drive, which itself is accessed from Glenshane Road in Claudy. As can be seen from the images here on the slide, the surrounding land use is predominantly residential with existing housing to the north, east and northwest of the site. And the Cumber Claudy Primary School is also located directly to the west of the site. So the next couple of slides just show some photographs showing the current condition of the site. The application site was formerly used as an agricultural field. Some more images here. As you can see, some of the images there, the surrounding housing borders the site. At housing developments at Craigmore Drive and Cumberview. So just in terms of the policy context, the site was assessed under the following policy: the Regional Development Strategy, the SPPS, and the Derry and Strabane Local Development Plan, and also the Derry Area Plan in terms of the maps only. And it was also assessed against the following supplementary guidance as listed there. So just an image here showing the location of the application site within the context of the area plan maps. As you can see there, the site's fully within the settlement boundary of Claudy. Again, just an aerial photo with a wider context showing the location in Claudy next to existing housing developments. As part of the application, a concept plan was brought forward, which you can see there. This concept plan at this outline stage just establishes the core plan and principles of the development. The concept plan proposes a mix of semi-detached and detached properties with a density that's comparable to the surrounding housing developments adjacent. The proposal also includes for retention of existing trees along with enhanced additional planting. The principle of the development, along with the potential layout and potential density in the proposed concept plan, is considered acceptable. Further detail will be provided in terms of design, scale, massing, as well as detailed landscape designs at reserved matter stage. So through consultation with DFI Roads, it was established that there be a number of alterations required to the access route from Craigmore Drive. These works include widening of the existing footpath along Craigmore Drive, as well as widening of the footpath at the junction with Glenshane Road, as well as new road markings just at the site junction. For overall then, just in summary, the site this is for an outline plan permission for a residential development within the settlement limit of Claudy, adjacent to existing housing developments. The principal development is considered acceptable at this outline stage. All consultees are content to proceed subject to conditions outlined in the planning report. There was a number of representations, including 15 objections, which have been addressed in the officer's report. Therefore, considering all of that was mentioned, including all material considerations, including plan and policy, the recommendation today is to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. Members, as indicated, Les Ross is still with us. So Les, again, agent for this application. So take your 5 minutes whenever you're ready to go, and we'll take any questions that come your way.
Thank you again, Chair. It's a bit like London buses. You don't see me for a while and then 2 applications at once. So again, I'd like to welcome the officer's recommendation and thank the planning officer for what is a very thorough and balanced report. We very much appreciate the work's gone into the assessment of the application. This is, in our view, a very straightforward proposal. The site lies within the settlement limits of Claudy, and it sits naturally alongside existing housing development. Members, you'll not know it, but it's a very attractive site. There's the very pleasant outlook over the valley below. The site slopes down. It's also located within easy walking distance of the local services, the schools and the community facilities in the village. So it's a fantastic site, really. The proposal delivers improvements to the existing access road, the footpath arrangements through Craigmore Drive, and DFI Roads worked with them through the application. They're now satisfied with those improvements. We recognise that the local residents did raise concerns during the application process, and that's not unusual with housing proposals of this nature. However, we've worked through those issues, and you'll note there's no objections from consultees. And there is no doubt, members, that this proposal represents a logical, a sustainable extension to the existing residential area. So without further ado, I'll respectfully ask members if you would support the officer's recommendation to approve. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Les, and thanks for coming along in person as well. Members, any questions for Les? Alderman Montgomery, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Les, for coming in. It was just a quick question. They talked about semi-detached and detached properties, and I'm just wondering, have you considered bungalows within this residential area?
Yes, and through the Chair, thank you for the question. Yeah, all of that will be determined at the next stage, Councillor. So I've heard a few different ideas from the applicant who is a housing developer, and that would include a bungalow development because he feels that there is a demand for this. But I wouldn't want to, commit at this stage because it's outlined and there's so many things can happen. But I'll certainly pass that comment on to the applicant.
Okay. Yeah. Councillor Oak.
Thank you. It's more or less just a comment following on from one of the consultees, and it'd be the housing executive. I do note that they can support, new build because they are saying there's adequate supply in the area. However, they are saying that they can support affordable housing. So I do hope that is taken into account at the next stage. But I would also like to say from my experience, and I suppose other councillors' experience in the past, where an area when there's bills going up, people do change their areas of choice. So therefore, the actual need in the housing executive might change when people see buildings go up. I have noted that in the past where I've been trying to help people with housing, they change their areas of choice. So that might be a consideration too going forward. But I would also like to see a few bungalows built too whenever. But good to see that the affordable housing is on the mix as well, because we just don't need social homes. We need homes that are affordable for especially young couples to buy if that's the way they want to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logan. Actually, very well observed. That does happen in my experience too. Les, have you anything you want to add to that, or just happy to take that away with you?
Yeah, I guess just the new policy, Chair, that commits developers to that minimum 20%, and I think probably that's something that developers will work through at reserve matters or a new full outline, a full stage. So. Yeah, but again, I'll take those comments back to the developer. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, anybody else, any questions for Mr. Ross? No? Okay, sit tight there, Les. Anybody any questions for Rory or any of the planning team? If not, obviously you can see that in front of you. The recommendation is for an approval, so I'll take a proposal. Councillor Logue. Proposing that we accept the recommendation, Councillor Logue? Yes, you're seconding that proposal? Yeah. Okay, members, don't think we need to go much further on this, so let's sit tight and we'll put it to the vote.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So members, this is the vote, the recommendation to approve LA 11 2025 00240. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Or Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine.
Ta, Suzanne.
Councillor Sean Fleming's not here. Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Conor Heaney.
I abstain. I must part of the presentation. So.
Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Oh.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
And Councillor Lillian Senoy Barr.
For.
Apart from one technical reason for abstention, we have a unanimous vote in support of that recommendation. Les, all it remains for me to do on behalf of the committee is to thank you for your attendance, not once but twice today. So again, wish you a safe journey home. Thanks a million, Les. Okay, members, next one on the list is number 5. Recommendation for approval of LA 11 2025 0031F. Bear with me a second. Members, the reason that was in number 5 was somebody had indicated that they wanted to speak. They've now actually informed us during the course of the meeting that they want to withdraw that request. However, we had agreed that the running order at the start of the meeting, so I'm going to stick with that running order. So we will be going to number 5, despite the fact that there are now no speakers to address the committee. Can I just also, for the benefit of members of the public, outline the rules and protocols around what we consider to be late information. If you want to submit late information, it has to be submitted before the commencement of the planning committee. So if anybody, I'm informed that there may be people in the public gallery who have petitions and late information. I'm afraid the protocol precludes me from allowing it at this late stage. However, I know that the committee will have given fair and due consideration to all support and objections as well. So it's LA 11 2025 0031F, and Kieran, you're going to take us through that. That's for a retention change of use from a single family dwelling to a house multiple occupation, 11 Abercorn Road, which I think Kieran, you're probably about to repeat as well. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's item 11, LA 11 2025 0031, retention of change of use from a single family dwelling to a house of multiple occupation at 11 Abercorn Road, with a recommendation to approve. The slide here just shows the property itself outlined in red in Abercorn Road. And then we have a picture here of the front elevation. It's a 2.5-story dwelling, white PVC windows, dash rendered finish, which is fairly typical for a long there. This is the existing layout as it provided originally with the application, which was for a 5-bed HMO, and this had a living room and bedroom on the ground floor with a kitchen, then had 2 bedrooms on the first floor and a bathroom, and then the second floor had 2 bedrooms. The application was revised during the processing of it to reduce the property to 4 bedrooms, and as you can see now, this floor plan in front of us is the revised floor plan, which has a living room and dining room and kitchen on the ground floor. We have 2 bedrooms and the bathroom again on the first floor and 2 bedrooms on the second floor. As part of this application process, there were 2 consultees who were Environmental Health and DFI Roads. Both raised no objections. However, Roads did note limited parking in the area. Then in terms of representations, we had a total of 8 letters of support for the application from 7 addresses. And there were 6 petitions of objection with 120 signatures. I'd just like to highlight the members within the report. This was marked as 5 petitions, but this was a typo error. It should actually read as 6. The petitions then raised a number of concerns regarding the development, which have been addressed throughout the report, but just in summary, they were related to damage to the neighbourhood, management of the property, car parking, refuge collection, noise disturbance, and maintenance of the property, which again have been addressed within the report as the officers have addressed the policies. In terms then of the policy applicable to this application, the policies which were assessed are contained in the Derry City and Strabane District Council Local Development Plan 2032, with the main policies for consideration for a HMO of this type being GD Pol 1 and 2 where applicable. These relate to General Development Management Policy and Design and Settlements. We have Policy TAM 9, which relates to car parking and servicing. We then have Policy How 4, Protection of Existing Residential Accommodation. And then we have How 13, which relates to house multiple occupation management areas, and Policy How 14, which relates to houses in multiple occupation. And for this application, the Derry Area Plan 2011 maps and zones apply. In relation to Policy How 4, the proposal complies with the requirements of the policy. As if approved, it wouldn't alter the status of the property as a dwelling and will retain the property for permanent occupation. The proposal again complies with How 13. There are 143 properties in Abercorn Road, with 5 currently approved or licensed for use as a HMO. This leaves a current percentage of HMOs on the street at 3.5%. This application, if approved, would bring the number of HMOs on the street to 4%, which meets the requirements of How 13, which will not allow any more than 30% of the houses within a street to be granted for further HMO development during the transition period until the local plans policy is adopted. The proposal does comply with How 14 as well, where applicable. It's a 4-bedroom HMO, which doesn't exceed the 4-bedroom threshold, which satisfies that part of the policy, and then the HMO itself takes up the entire property with lounge, kitchen, 4 bedrooms and bathroom. If approved, then the number of HMOs on the street would be 4%, which wouldn't detract from the established character of the area, which meets the requirements of How 14. In relation to car parking provision, then the proposal meets requires a policy TAM 9 GD Pol 1 where applicable. The use of the property as a 4-bed HMO has a parking requirement of 2 spaces, which is no greater than the requirement of a 4-bed dwelling, which has the same requirement of 2 spaces. Overall, having considered the relevant policies, consultation responses and material considerations set out in the report, officers would recommend approval with the conditions attached. And I would just highlight then in terms of the conditions, this is a retention. Officers would just amend the first condition to section 55 of the Act as opposed to section 61, which relates to the proposal.
Thank you, Kieran. Members, as indicated, there are no speakers on this one now. Anybody got any questions for Kieran? Councillor Logue?
Here, it's not a question, but I do want to make maybe a few comments if that's okay at this stage. Yeah. I suppose I have looked at all the policies that pertain to HMOs, and I failed to find any that I could object to this planning application. However, with that said, I am very, very aware of the issues that have emanated from this property. I think we may be a lot of councillors and other people, and there would be documented evidence of such happenings and occurrences that have occurred at that address. Probably council will have a record too as well as the PSNI, fire and rescue, and all the emergency services. And while we have seen letters for this recommendation, and that might be so that the landlord is good to maybe their occupants. I'm afraid that on the other hand, we have a community, especially the immediate residents surrounding this property, who have not had that experience. And when you are a landlord, you have responsibilities. So therefore, I am requesting that as part of a condition, if this application passes today, that as a condition that this council write to the HMO licensing department and advise them that there is recorded documentations to the, I suppose you would have to say, to the responsibility of the landlord who is named here in this application. So I'm not naming anybody, they're openly named here, but there is recorded documentation out there citing a lot of concerns to this property and at that landlord at the time, who is one of the same. So as part of the HMO licensing, there has to be a box ticked that this landlord is a responsible person. And I would have to say, from what I know to date, this landlord has not been responsible, maybe to her tenants, maybe not, because you don't know exactly what they're experiencing, but I do know what the surrounding residents have experienced. And therefore, I am requesting that a letter be sent outlining though that this has been the experience and there is recorded documentation to what has been happening at this address. So I do think we have a responsibility as a planning authority. While we can't say no to planning, we do have a responsibility to the people of the area regarding this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logan. As you already have pointed out, of course, as licensing and planning are two different animals, I suppose. And if there is reason for complaint, and as far as I'm aware, certainly that would be a licensing matter. I'm not sure if we can attach that kind of condition, so I'm going to ask officers for their thoughts in relation to it. I would certainly support a condition like that myself, because I think we do, as a city and district council, we do have a responsibility towards residents in all neighbourhoods, and their peace of mind, and all of the aforementioned that you've already brought up. So I'm going to pause just now, and we'll take some minute or two to take the advice in relation to whether we can attach that or not. And Patricia, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if we can, but we'll find out.
Right. Well, look, that's my suggestion. This is what I'm proposing, and if others need to take legal advice on that, that's okay. But I am proposing that we do this.
Okay, so just to clarify, in the application process for licensing, okay, representations can be made during that process regarding those concerns that are maybe outside of the planning process, i.e. antisocial behaviour, things like that, that we can't do anything with in terms of the planning. We have consulted environmental health as part of this planning application, and obviously the licensing also falls within council's responsibility. In terms of attaching a condition, councillor, I mean, it wouldn't meet the legal test of a planning condition, okay? But we can certainly, you know, advise environmental health of the concerns and of the minutes of today's meeting. Okay, and that those are passed on to the licensing team. I mean, I'm not aware of whatever stage the license could be at the moment. As I say, we're dealing with the application itself, but you know, that's an appropriate, maybe an appropriate solution. I think in terms of a condition, we will have difficulty in terms of the legal test of the condition on that, but we can certainly raise those concerns.
Look, I would certainly, thank you, Suzanne, for that, but I would certainly like to hear more on the legal advice from it. Look, there is a need and a place for HMOs within our council district. However, there's also the need and the requirement for responsible landlords of those HMOs. And no matter what type of landlord should it be a fish and chip shop, should it be a bar and off licence, or a HMO, or a bed and breakfast, your neighbours should be your best friends, because it's them ultimately who have the consequences of any detrimental issues that happen and occur on that property. And I would say a lot of things that have happened around this property has given rise to maybe the notion that all HMOs are bad, and that's certainly not the case. So I think we as a council have to stand up, and we have to, I would like to get more legal advice on this, because this is a concern that I have as a person who is going to maybe vote on a planning application. And it's something that I know, and probably other councillors know that are sitting in this committee, know the issues. And I can't, with hand and heart, without trying to do anything about it. You know, I can only try and make sure that all avenues are crossed. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So I don't know, maybe a wee bit more legal advice on this would be helpful.
So, as Suzanne's outlined, the council has available to it two separate regimes here in order to achieve the stated objectives that you're going through. Those are the planning regime and the HMO licensing regime. There are strict legal tests which apply to planning conditions, which we've rehearsed before. I must admit I have to read them every single time, you know, but they are that necessary, relevant to planning, enforceable, precise, reasonable, and related to the development. The condition that you're looking at probably isn't going to meet the test necessary for a planning condition. but they are exactly the kind of issues that we have discussed in the Environmental Health Committee whenever we've been looking at licensing of HMOs within those within there. So, I mean, any HMO is going to require to be licensed. If you want some additional comfort in relation to this, what we could do is pause this application. And I can make some inquiries as to where it sits within the HMO licensing regime at the moment as to whether or not there is an application, and come back and provide some information in relation to that. And then we could come back to the application again later in the meeting if members were so minded and they wanted that information in front of them.
Okay, Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, well, I would be of the opinion then that I'm going to propose that we pause this application until we get further advice.
Okay, and Councillor Lowe, I'm more than content to support you in that. So, members, are you all content with the proposal that we pause this application, give it further consideration, re-licensing and how it relates to the decisions that we have as front of us as a planning committee? If I don't hear anybody saying otherwise, then this is paused. Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Lowe. Thank you to Kieran for now. So that's that. That one's on pause. Members, okay, members, we're going to take a 10-minute break here at this point. I know you may well wish to push on with things. I have a personal family matter I need to check up on, so I think I need the break. So I'll see you all back here 10 past, roughly. Okay, thank you. Members. Okay, members. Very unusual situation. I certainly haven't experienced this one in all my time, either as chair of the committee, vice chair, or indeed as an ordinary committee member. So Councillor Logan had put that previous application on pause for further information in relation to that application, which was the HMO at Abercorn Road, number 11 Abercorn Road. I've spoken to the city solicitor, as has Councillor Logue, I believe, and the suggestion is now that we actually do have the information. So that was a fairly short pause. If you're content, we do have that information. It's not for me to decide, it's for this committee to decide. And there may well be potential for us to make a decision in relation to that application today. So I am going to ask the city solicitor to outline how that all came about. I wasn't in the room, and we'll take it from there, and we'll take advice as a committee initially, and then we'll move on, give that advice consideration, I think is where we're at. So
yes, so thanks, members. Appreciate the time being granted. So I have managed to discuss the matter with the head of environmental health, and he's confirmed that there is no license, HMO license application yet submitted in respect of this property. So obviously before the property will be able to use, if planning permission were to be granted, an HMO license application would have to be submitted. The kind of issues that Councillor Logue was raising as potential for conditions would be matters that would be appropriately dealt with as part of that HMO license application. As officers, we would undertake to ensure that those concerns that were expressed here today were noted to the Environmental Health Department so that they were properly considered as part of that license application. That's of assistance, members.
Okay, everybody tend to understand that position. Is there any questions or further questions for the city solicitor in relation to it? So my understanding, my reading of that is that we would be are in a condition to consider the planning application in front of us now, Philip, and that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then that subsequent to that, what follows on from that, obviously, then would be the actual licensing application, which evidently this committee have no say over. It's a matter for a different committee and those representations. Councillor Logue, are you content that we proceed then on the basis of the information that we've now received?
Thank you, and thank you for giving us that information, Philip. However, I am still of the opinion that I would like this committee to still pause this application for at least 1 month. Do we have more time to consider what you have actually advised us of? If you don't mind, I am still proposing you can go ahead with it, but that would be a different proposal.
Well, look, it's a matter for this committee, obviously, Councillor Logan. I mean, you've made your views clear on the matter. Might I suggest perhaps that there's, considering the foregoing, considering the information, and considering that we may well wish to have a little think about it, for want of a better way of putting it, that we might defer this for 1 month, and that we will hear this back here at committee stage in the planning committee in June. So that is a proposal from me. I'm likely going to need a seconder on that. So we would defer it for 1 month. You're content to second that. And then that report will come back. If members are content to proceed on that basis, Councillor Logue.
I'm content with that. I think it'll give the planning committee members a chance to get their head around exactly. There's a lot of members not here, and I know there's some online, but I do think that it's such an important issue and we need to be all aware of just the implications and what we can and what we can't do. So I do think that it would be appropriate if we give more thought and had more thought on ourselves as to what measures we can and cannot take. Thank you.
Okay, no doubt we're gonna come back with the same information that we've been provided with. So I think this is an opportunity to take a breather, really.
Aye, but it will give planning members the opportunity to do their own type of research too as well, and maybe go a wee bit deeper on it. Okay, and that's not negating the advice that we've already had, but please, if you would just allow me that and the other members that time to look over this issue. Thank you.
Councillor, I'm making the proposal based on a planning recommendation that's in front of us. Licensing considerations are not what I'm making a proposal on.
No, I know.
And you know, so I have to divorce one from the other, and we have to divorce one from the other.
Yeah.
So if there's a deferral here,
You know,
it's a
that's
deferral.
why we have to be clear on
Planning
what we can and can't do.
Planning
when we're
grounds,
making a
planning
plan.
grounds and planning grounds alone.
I definitely agree with you there. Thank you.
I just want that to be understood.
Yes,
Okay,
clearly.
Thank you, clearly. So members, I'm not sensing anyone's not content with that proposal. I don't think there's any requirement to go for a vote unless somebody feels that they can't agree with that.
Yeah, we need a seconder for just a formal seconder.
Okay, members, nobody online suggesting otherwise either, so we will defer. We will expect that back at the next planning committee. I think a month's ample time for members to give it further and due consideration. Okay, an unusual situation, I appreciate, but there are sometimes matters that we can't predict, we don't know, and it is, I think it is appropriate that we consider further on occasion. It's not the first time we've deferred something, as you all know. Okay, right, so that was number 502. We're going to roll back now to number 4 on our list, which is a recommendation to approve its LA 11 2025 0400 554, which is a section 54 application to vary 3 conditions of plan permission, et cetera, in relation to the call roundabout, bounded by the Clooney Road, Crescent Link, etc. We'll hear more information on that. James, you're ready to go, so whenever you're ready.
Chair, sorry, Councillor Reddy here, just before we start,
Yes.
I think I need to be, I declared the interest back at the start of the meeting, so can I be put in the online holding box until this
Yep.
one? Say thank you.
Okay, thank you for the reminder, Councillor Riley. We will put you in the holding room and come back to you whenever we've concluded the business of this one. So Leslie Ann, if you can advise us when that's done. Yeah. Yeah. We're putting Councillor Riley into the waiting room. Yeah. Okay, that's Councillor Riley in the waiting room, and if we can remember to let him back in again after this one. So, James, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Item 4, LA 11 2025 0400 S54 is a Section 54 application which will vary 3 conditions of a previous planning permission, which is LA 11 2016 0422 which is a permission, the overall permission for the H30 zone lands just over at Carr Roundabout and Grantia. The application itself is recommended for approval, and the three conditions involved are to do with the provision of works to the Grantia and Carr roundabouts. That's an aerial view there of the site, and obviously you can see where the Carr roundabout and Grantia roundabout is. And as part of various measures for the site, that there was an agreement to improve both roundabouts. The red line of the application here is substantial, therefore it's a major application. It's been brought before yourselves. So briefly, each condition will change from condition 45 to change the trigger point for the complete construction and upgrade mitigation works to the Grantia roundabout junction. Previous trigger point was 150 dwellings and now be 195. Condition 46 is a change to the trigger point for the detailed drawings for the Carr roundabout from the occupation of 300 dwellings to the submission now being lodged prior to the occupation of 225 dwellings. Condition 47 is a change to delivery of the Carr roundabout and will alter the trigger point for completion of the works from the occupation of 300 dwellings to the occupation of 262 dwellings or prior to the 30th of November of 2026. During the application, we've consulted with DFA Roads as they were obviously very relevant in the consideration of improvement works to the roundabout and the road network. And they were content that the proposed amended wording to conditions acceptable, and the application received no representations. In terms of the works proposed, this would be the Carr roundabout, which will be provision of a lane coming off on the Crescent Link from the Grantia roundabout direction and signalisation of the roundabout itself. And this has already been agreed from the outline permission that these works would be undertaken. The conditions will vary when the detailed drawings come in to roads and when they will actually be implemented. So either through a trigger point of number of houses or by the 30th of November 2026. In terms of the works at Grantia roundabout, these are more to do with signalisation and the provision of a crossing point. And those amendments have already been dealt with on site. And if you go past there, the vast majority of those have already been completed. So officers are satisfied that the amend of the wording of the conditions is acceptable and we recommend that the variation of conditions are approved. Members note that this is a section 54 application to vary conditions. So from the original outline 2016 permission, some of those conditions will already have been dealt with through various other discharge condition applications. So they won't be repeated on decision notice. So just if you're reviewing the conditions proposed, there will be some that have already been discharged from the original and won't be put back onto a decision notice. So therefore, we would then recommend that the conditions are approved. Thank you.
Right, James, thank you very much. Right, members, does anybody have, there's no speakers, anybody have any questions for James in relation to the application in front of us? Is there no questions, proposal?
Questions,
Go ahead.
but just to welcome these changes. We have a situation, we had it before these homes were built. We all know the situation around this roundabout and the issues, but we certainly are, while we welcome the much needed social housing development, we also welcome the change to these conditions. So I would like to propose we accept the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe, completely concur. Much needed realignments and traffic signalling and all of the things that we knew that we wanted upon a completion of significant number of houses, homes in that particular area. I think this frees it up and might speed things up as well, hopefully. expect it will. Councillor Heaney?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so proposal in front of us, members, recommendation to approve, goes by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Heaney, and we will go straight to the vote.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So this is the vote for the recommendation to approve LA 11 2025 0400, Section 54. Alderman Keith Carrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine.
Suzanne.
Councillor Sean Fleming's not here. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Heaney. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard. Councillor Oak.
Or
Councillor Murphy. And Councillor Lillian Sina Barr. Thank you.
Okay, that's unanimous, members. We'll move on to the next application, but can we obviously invite Councillor Riley back to the meeting? Leanne, whenever you're ready, let us know. And Councillor Jackson is in the building.
he's here. He expressed an interest, didn't he, in that? Well, his iPad's here. I'll text him.
For those of you who are online, we're trying to establish where Councillor Jackson is in the building,
Right.
if indeed he is. So we're going to pause here until we get the idea that we can proceed with or without him. Okay.
Up to item 4 now, isn't it? Up to item 4.
On 6 now. 6 and 7. There's 2.
I've texted him.
So Logue, we're going to crack on, but if you'd like to, you know, we've got the quorum in front of us, so we put out a search party, and he's nowhere to be found. He's like the Scarlet Pimpernel today. So, right, the next one is number 6 on our list, which is LA 11 2025 0660F, proposed single-story extension at 15 Dullerton Road, Cullion. And Kieran's going to take us through that one. Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is item 6, LA 11 2025 0660F for a proposed single-story extension, replacement of this existing garage and upgraded access at 15 Dullerton Road, Cullion, with a recommendation to approve. This is a site location plan here, just outlined in red, showing the property itself. It forms part of a row of single-story dwellings fronting onto the road. And then we have a picture in the front of the property. And in the rear, it's a modest single-story bungalow, dash render finish and UPVC windows. The property itself, as I say, covers forms part of a uniform road dwellings fronting onto Dullerton Road within the open countryside, and the proposal in front of us today seeks to add a single-story extension to the rear part of the property and reposition the garage on the site with access upgrades. The extension itself is proposed, which has been proposed, seeks to provide a bedroom and an ensuite for the property owners. This then is just the layout of the site as it existed. It's the bungalow and the shed on the boundary with number 17 adjacent. As part of the application process, there was one consultation, and that was with the FI Roads, had no objection to the upgrades to the access to the property. In terms of representations then, there have been a total of 9 letters of objection to the application from 8 addresses. The objections raised a number of concerns regarding the development, which related to boundary issues, loss of light, loss of character, and impact on bats. which have been addressed within the case officer report in front of members. These issues originally related to the proposal as it had been submitted to the planning office, and these related to an extension to the side of the property when it had initially been submitted. The application itself has been amended during the processing with officers, and the extension has now been relocated to the rear of the property, and the shed proposed has been relocated on the site to the rear of the property. The slide here just shows the block plan as proposed originally, which the objections had generated as a result of. We have the shed again proposed in the original position, the new shed, and we had the extension to the side of the property. The applicant has looked at this and addressed those issues now, and we have the amended block plan now, which is what's in front of members today for approval, which is relocation of the extension to the rear of the property here, and then the shed to the rear of the site here, which takes it away from the boundary. After these amendments were received, there's been no further objections to the proposal in front of members today. In terms of an application for an extension to a dwelling, the relevant policies are contained within the Derry City and Strabane District Council Local Development Plan. In terms of the plan strategy, the main policies for consideration are GD Pol 1 General Development Management Policy, Policy How 10, which relates to residential extensions and alterations to dwellings, Policy TAM 2, which relates to access to public roads, and then policies CY 1 and 2, which relates to integration and design of buildings in the countryside and rural character. Again, these are applicable as the application site itself is located in the countryside. And then we have policies NE2 and NE3, which relate to protected habitats and species. And in terms of this application, the Strabane area plan maps and zonings apply. In terms of policies, the main policy applicable for a residential house extension is How 10. This allows for an extension of a property, or of a residential property where it meets the criteria of AD of the policy. The extension now is proposed in front of members today as a single-storey extension located to the rear of the property with limited views from a public road. The scale, form and massing and design of the proposal are sympathetic to the built form of the host property, and it doesn't detract from the character of the area. The position of the extension now to the rear of the property ensures that the privacy and amenity of the neighbouring properties are not unduly affected. There will be no loss of trees or biodiversity, which complies with policies NE2 and NE3, and sufficient space remains within the curtilage of the property for recreation, domestic purposes. Overall, the extension proposed now complies with policy How 10. The shed proposed is also acceptable in terms of scale, form and massing, as is repositioned within the site, limiting any impact on neighbouring properties, with no impact on biodiversity or loss of trees, which again meets the requirements of policy How 10. The proposal again in terms of the extension of the shed also meet policies CY 1 and 2, which are applicable due to the proposal being in the countryside. The upgrade to the access then is also acceptable and complies with policy TAM 2. Overall, the proposal meets the requirements of the applicable policies within the plan. The amendments have been provided to address objector concerns, and there have been no further concerns raised by the objectors, and officers would recommend approval with the standard conditions attached in the report. And just sorry, members, this is just the layout as well, which is the bedroom to the rear, and then the elevations, the side and the rear, and the shed layout. So, yeah.
Thank you. Members, no speakers. Does anybody have any questions for Kieran in relation to this application? No questions. Okay, thank you, Kieran. Members' recommendation in front of us is for an approval. If you support that idea, I'm going to need a proposer in a second. Proposed to accept the recommendation to approve by Councillor Devine, and a seconder, Alderman Montgomery, to second. Members will put it to the vote as there are no further questions. Sorry, Alderman Kerrigan, are you looking to come in on this one?
No, you're
before I go to the vote.
I was going to propose for second it, so I'm content.
All right. Okay, no problem. Right. Okay. So we've got a proposer and a seconder, and we'll go to the vote now. Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So this is the vote for the proposal to accept LA 11 2025 0660F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan,
For Suzanne.
Alderman Janice Montgomery,
Or Suzanne?
Councillor John Boyd,
Or
Councillor Caroline Devine, Councillor Conor Heaney, and Councillor Jackson is not in. Councillor Leonard, Councillor Patricia Lowe.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
And Councillor Lillian Sinai Barr.
For.
Okay, members, that's unanimous. One technical abstention for want of a better way of putting it. Okay, right. Moving on to our last application for decision today, which is LA 11 2025 0411F. Recommendation to approve its a renewal application for a new play park in the Benview Road area of the city. So, Kieran, you're our reporting officer again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is item 7, LA 11 2025 0411F, which is renewal of application 2019-0595F for new play park with railings, fence, enclosure, gates, play equipment, and safety surfaces, seats, bins, cycle stands, new footpath. There's upgraded vehicular maintenance access provision, tree and shrub planting, and service relocations, grassworks, and signage. And this is on lands adjacent to and immediately east of Little Acorns Preschool, Benview Road area, and directly opposite the Kosh Bar and Grill and 66 Buncrana Road, Derry. And the recommendation is to approve. This is the site location plans. This is a site location plan outlined in red for the site. And then we just have the ortho then, which shows an area of green space opposite. This is the Kosh Bar and Grill, and this is Little Acorns here, down below it to the left. And then we have pictures on the site then from the road. It's an area of green space. I say the area proposed for the play park is an existing area of open space at the minute located within the Benview estate in the Coshquin area. That site at present, if you can see the pictures, is open to the public with the public road and footpath forming the northern boundary of the site. In terms of consultations to this application, there have been 6 consultees and all have come back with no objection. That includes environmental health, DFI roads, DFI rivers, NI water, NIE networks and historic buildings. There has been no representations or letters of support received in relation to the application. And then this is just the proposed layout and formalisation of the site with the play park, access roads, etc. within it. In terms of policies then relevant to this application, again, they're contained within the Derry City and Strabane District Council Local Development Plan Strategy, with the main policies for this type of application being GDPOL 1 and 2, which is General Development Management and Policy and Design and Settlements. We have TAM 1 and 2, which relate to access, Policy CI1, which is Community Infrastructure, and Policy OS1, which relates to open space. And then we have policies NE1, 2 and 3, which relate to natural environment and biodiversity. And again, for this application, the Area Plan 2011 maps and zonings apply. The site itself, subject to application, is currently an area of open space within the Benview estate, with the proposal seeking to formalise this as a play park for use by the community. The development proposed will not remove the current designation as open space, with the proposed works formalising it, which complies with Policy OS1 of the plan strategy. The development proposed also complies with the requirements of Policy CI1 Community Infrastructure, as the proposed play park will meet a need for the local community in the Coshquin and wider Buncrana Road area. The proposal will have a new access onto the Benview Road, but this access will be required for occasional maintenance, which is acceptable to DFI roads. And when built, the proposal will not generate a material increase in traffic or parking demand at the site, as it's easily accessible by walking and cycling, with direct access and linkages to the existing public footpath network. And the proposal also incorporates level access pass throughout to allow easy access for those with impaired mobility, which complies with policies TAM 1 and 2 of the plan. The development won't have a detrimental impact on biodiversity in the natural environment, with additional landscaping proposed which will enhance the biodiversity in the area, which when complete will comply with policies NE1, NE2 and NE3. of the plan. And Historic Environment Division, in relation to their consultation, were contacted because the site is located next door to Dairy Home, which agreed to list the building. Again, they have no objections to this in relation to the application. So overall, the proposal complies with all the policies highlighted in the report, and officers would recommend approval with the attached conditions within the report.
Thank you, Kieran. Members, obviously, this is a renewal application from when we approved the plan approval in 2019. Councillor Heaney.
No questions, Chair, but if it's appropriate, I'm happy to propose we accept the recommendation, just with a comment that, you know, this has been a long running project that we'll try to get on the ground, and now that we've again renewed planning, I think we'll redouble our efforts to try and secure the funding required to get this delivered. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Proposal from Councillor Heaney. Councillor Murphy, you're going to second that? Yeah. So hopefully this will progress quickly. It's hard to believe that we are where we are, but it is what it is. So I would personally propose that as well. I don't think there's any further comment, and so we will take it to the vote because we have some people online.
So members, this is the vote for LA 11 2025 0411F, recommendation to approve. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For Suzanne.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Conor Heaney. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Or
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
Councillor Lillian Seanoy Barr. Unanimous.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, members, and thank you, Kieran. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, which is the consideration and proposed quality consideration of and agreeing the proposed quality submissions guide, which has obviously been provided in the PACS member, but I'm going to let Suzanne go through a brief explanation of this, I believe. So, Suzanne, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Chair. So members, we have now taken the introduction of the Quality Submissions Guide a step further. You'll probably recall initial considerations on this, and then the Department of Infrastructure went ahead and introduced legislation, made this a statutory requirement for councils if they so wished. And that process required a public consultation. So we have now, as a council, carried out the public consultation, which concluded in January 2026. And we had received 3 responses, which we've attached to the pack for you. The Northern Ireland Housing Executive, NIA Water Management Unit, and DFI Transport Planning and Modelling Unit. So each of the organisations have made a number of suggestions. As I've indicated in the paper, we have, as officers, we have included some of the suggestions. Others we may reconsider on down the line at the review stage. I think as a council, what we want to do is obviously the Quality Submissions Guide is bringing about improvements at the start of the process, but we don't want it to be overly restrictive either in terms of everything that's required. There's information that has been recommended there that we can still take in through the process. So as officers, we have come together, we have further developed the guide. So the guide is basically, there's advice for applicants and agents. There's a basic checklist, and there's the additional checklist. And then there's also some examples per application type of the types of information that should be required. We're also proposing, the document we still have to finalise, there's links in the legislative background and at the back of it. I see this very much as a working document, really. And as we maybe move on and develop ourselves as a planning department, we'll maybe want to update this. So we want to make we want to make could make some changes at the start on down the line in terms of, you know, at the minute, we're allowing 5 working days to return any invalid applications or for the receipt of additional information. We may, you know, we could reduce that going forward if we become really efficient at receipt stage. I think, you know, this will come as no surprise to agents out there working, because a number of councils have now introduced this requirement. The likes of Fermanagh, I think Causeway, Belfast have introduced one a number of years ago, a non-statutory one at that stage. So we are hoping now as an officer team to hold an agent engagement workshop online with agents on not just the quality submissions, but also look at the call for sites process, any queries in the LDP. Hopefully at that stage we'll have confirmation back from the department on our revised delegated scheme. So it'll be a really good opportunity to have a really focused session with agents on all those issues. And that's also, I suppose, a recommendation coming out of our independent planning review in order to have quality engagement with agents and taking their views on board. So, I mean, happy for any queries, questions on this. And that's really the summary of where we are to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you. Members, any further thoughts? And if not, Councillor Jackson.
Okay, Chair, thanks Suzanne for the report, and I know we've talked about validation checklists for quite some time, and it makes sense. It improves the quality of applications at the front end, and that helps with the processing time and eases the workload in our planning team. So the concern, in terms of everything that Suzanne has outlined, couldn't agree more, and it should be a working document. It shouldn't be led. I know we will follow any legislative framework, but we should have a bespoke model here, and that I know there was reference to the legislative framework and implementation of that. Do we have to wait? And I suppose that's the first question is how quickly can we implement this? The engagement with agents is crucial, and that's something that we would like to see happen as soon as possible. And it is timely when we see the revision of the delegated scheme and all of that. No, there's that engagement with agents will help ensure that there's the submission of applications in the first instance is improved. So this is extremely welcome, and from our perspective overdue, but I wouldn't like for us to be waiting on the implementation of legislation. They prompt us to do it. It's the view of the elected members in this chamber. It's a view of our planning department that we want applications, quality applications submitted in the first instance. We don't want to be chasing agents looking for further information, and then that delays the planning team from processing applications and getting them out the door quickly. So we want to have a streamlined planning service. We want our planning service to be the best, and that in terms of the quality of applications in the first instance is a big way of us achieving that. So this is welcome. The engagement with agents is extremely welcome, and we just hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel and we can get this implemented sooner rather than later. So if it needs a proposal, Chair, I'm more than happy to do it on behalf of Sinn Féin.
Thanks, Councillor Jackson. It's really encouraging to have the support, and I think we all recognise we've all been in at this a long time now, and we recognise the early submission. In terms of any approvals, maybe you misunderstood me there. We don't need any approval for this, but in terms of the processes, obviously, whatever decision, you know, if we go ahead today, then we have to look at it being considered or being ratified at full council, that sort of stuff. So we would be, so we've sort of timetabled that out, that we could bring it in around that second week of June, and then advise the agents, look, because there'll be applications that they'll be preparing now. You know, so we'll start now with a soft launch in terms of this is coming. Then we'll have our engagement session with them, and then we will be up and running on the 15th of June. All hands on deck, helping and supporting people, because those initial weeks will probably be, we will be receiving applications, we'll be sending back and things like that, you know. So no, thanks for the support. I'm happy, and listen, happy as always to consider any issues that arise, you know, on the ongoing. Thanks.
Okay, no, I think that you're proposing that, Councillor Jackson. I'm content to second that proposal. I mean, anything that makes life simpler for all concerned, I think we'd all welcome that. And it has been a document that we've been waiting to see, and we've been waiting to present to all stakeholders. And so the timeline is actually very welcome, because obviously we will be operating it mid-June. And hopefully as well that it'll help the work of the planning department in particular and officers. And we might see, I'm loath to say it, but we might actually see better and stronger applications, which again would speed up the process, because then we wouldn't be asking for information that we've already been presented with. That's the expectation in this document, so I welcome it as well. Members, I don't hear any dissenting voices in relation to this, so all content to proceed as suggested in the paper. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then item 9, which is a consultation from DERA, Marine Licensing Branch, the Riverine Community Park project, and Andre is going to walk us through that. Andre, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This paper is just to advise that the Council received correspondence on the 21st of April from the Marine Licensing Branch in DERA, seeking Council's comments regarding a screening opinion in order to determine whether an environmental statement is required to be submitted with a marine licence application in relation to the Riverine Community Park project. Members will be aware that the application was approved by Planning Committee a number of years ago, and the proposal previously underwent a screening exercise by the marine licensing team in August 2022. And back then they determined that the proposed works would not require an EAA under the regulations, and a marine construction licence was issued. However, this licence expired on the 5th of March 2026, and therefore McAdam Design, as the agent, are now seeking a new screening opinion. So members, I've prepared a draft response, and the recommendation is just that members note the paper and the draft response. If there's any further comments that you want officers to put in the response, I'm happy to take that forward and do that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Leonard.
Thank you very much, Chair. No, happy with the response and a couple of considerations towards the end of the letter, and propose that we accept that. If you need a proposal. Do you need a proposal to accept it? Yeah, propose that then. Thank you.
I forgot to, right, okay, I'm going to try that again with the mic on. So the next 4 items are open for information. So we'll start with the enforcement review. Councillor Logue, yeah, go ahead.
I've just noticed, look, there is an increase this year on all counts of enforcement cases, and a lot of them are for HMOs too as well, would account for them. But on the capacity and the resource issue, how's that within the planning team? How's that been dealt with, given that there is a noticeable increase each quarter?
Okay, thanks, Chair. And Councillor Luke. In terms of the resources, we have had resource issues in terms of staff vacancies, okay, that we have been trying to fill. Another issue has been the really high appeal caseload out throughout the last year, which, you know, which has taken staff away from maybe closing cases or concluding cases, okay? So we have actually, as the paper shows, we have actually met the 70%, the KPI for enforcement for last year, which is really, really good, turning that around. We are having more resources coming on board now within the next 4 weeks into the team. So we will continue just to monitor the resources with the director and the senior team, and if we can get more resources in, we will, in terms of the finance behind that.
It's good that we have met the target given the higher levels of enforcement cases. And you have mentioned that there's, within the next 4 weeks, that the team is going to increase, but are they going to be deployed to the enforcement? Yeah.
Sorry, I was still, yes, we have staff coming into the enforcement team, and we're looking at measures to see if we can get other staff to come in terms of support as well, albeit on a temporary basis, just to try to get the cases reduced. But we are making progress. But as I say, we have met the target. The appeals have now gone down, but the more enforcement notices we will issue, the more appeals we will get. That's just the way it goes. So we have to be proportionate as well in terms of what we're doing. So, but yes, happy to report in any other issues as well, or if there's any concerns you have, let us know.
And if there are any concerns you have as a team, you let us know. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Luke. Thank you, Suzanne. Anybody else on the enforcement review? No. Number 11, any further queries? Read the LDP update, which is there for information as well, members. It's all self-explanatory, I think. Councillor Jackson, go ahead.
Thanks, and I suppose there's nothing in the report that's new, because we did, Chair, as you'll be only too familiar with, we had the update as part of the steering group, and there was considerable detail around the steps that need to be taken, not only to make any suggested changes to the processes involved to change the plan strategy, but also as we move through the policies plan. So one of the welcome the fact that this paper's been brought in, sort of updating all the members, and whilst it's frustrating, and that the timeframes, different timeframes involved are frustrating, but it was explained in detail around the steps required, and particularly the need to consult around any proposed changes, and the consultation process is important, because if the plan strategy and the processes we went through that teaches anything, this needs to be a community-led plan. No, that the community input needs to is valued and important, and that shows the importance of the consultation stage. So we need to afford the relevant time to that. Welcome the fact that there's because one of the key elements of the next phase of our our LDP is that mapping exercise. And I know we've went through a recruitment process. We're going through a recruitment process in relation to that. And hopefully now that if we bring that expertise in-house, then we can start to see a bit more progress in relation to the local policies plan and members' involvement in that. So we look forward to that element in the early autumn. The other point that I just wanted to highlight is in relation to the guidance documents, the SPGs. Now, when do we expect to see the first iterations of those coming on the committee? Is there any sort of time frame where we would start to see those coming through?
Okay, I think that was the one question, but I concur with the previous comments in relation to other elements of this, and obviously you're quite correct, Christopher. You and I and others on the steering group have seen this already. Francis, go ahead.
Thank you to the chair. Yeah, thanks for the comments. Useful feedback. Generally, with regard to the SPGs, as you'll be aware, the consultation on 17 and 18 draft SPGs closed there at the end of March. So we are currently considering the representations or the submissions that were made. Last week we had a meeting regarding one of them with childminders, etc. So with a view to bringing that forward, I believe that the first batch will be brought forward. We're aiming for the July committee. So we'll bring like probably 4 or 6, that sort of thing, and then the rest of them sort of scheduled over the business year to get them all done. That's the plan. So we're aiming for July.
Thanks, Pontius, for that, and really appreciate that update. Just in relation to the GIS officer, have we been successful at this stage?
So the process is ongoing now, so we haven't recruited anybody yet. Thanks.
Thank you all. 12, list of decisions made, and 13, the appeals update. No, okay, need a proposal to go into confidential. Can we have that? Alderman Montgomery, thank you. Seconder in that, please. Councillor Leonard, thank you. Member will take a second. So, as Leanne knows that says no.